Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to Writer's Workshop. I hope you had a wonderful lunch. Let's get to it. Here's today's I Can. It says I can identify different details from my own experience to use to deepen my character. Just as a reminder to everybody, we are attempting and starting on our journey of writing a fantasy fiction short story where we have some perhaps magical elements or some elements that you wouldn't normally find, some setting elements you wouldn't normally find in real life. But at its heart, it is still an engaging story that readers want to know, want to follow along on that journey with you. Okay? There's our materials you're going to need today. Paper to take notes. There's also a Google Docs assignment that was just posted to Google Classroom. If you are comfortable flipping back and forth between the Google Doc and this video, or if you split your screen, if you know how to split your screen, and I know I said I was going to post a how-to video on how to split your screen, and I still haven't done that, so I will make sure to do that as soon as possible. You can go ahead and use the note taker directly. I'm actually going to be working out of that exact same note taker in this video. However, if you want to take notes on paper and then do your thinking after the video is over, that is completely fine too. Let's get into it. So this question up above my head of what makes a character, what make a character, I'm going to fix that because it's going to bother me otherwise. What makes a character feel real? There we go. What makes a character feel real? It can be, I think, pretty straightforward to get kind of the basics of a character in terms of those, I like to call them the baseball card stats of like what you're going to find on the back. How old are they? How tall are they? What color's their hair? How many home runs did they hit in 1995? That's an actual baseball card stat, not one you're going to use for your fantasy fiction character. But those types of details can be pretty straightforward to get together. How your character looks, where your character might live, that kind of a thing. What makes a strong and fully realized protagonist or main character goes beyond those sort of outside traits and gets more into things like our strengths and flaws, our wants and hopes. And the most effective writing and the most detailed writing is going to come from your personal experience, because the idea that you've lived or you've thought something directly gives you the most knowledge and gives you the most ammunition to really come at a character and develop a character, because you yourself are a fully fleshed out and real and wonderful character. Some of you more characters than others. But you've got a lot of life knowledge already. You've got a lot of life lived already, right? And so you can talk about, from a personal experience, how certain situations might feel, or how certain it might feel to want something in particular, or to think something in particular. And so we want to use those experiences and those pieces of knowledge to create a character that feels like someone that you know, or feels like someone that you've met before. In order to do that, we're going to go to our digital note taker here. And you can see that our just for today, we're broken down into kind of three categories. Okay, starting at the top, we've got character traits. And I subtitled this with the I am sentence starter. And really thinking about who you are as a person, and are those the kind of things you want your character to be? And having that knowledge and that experience really start to flesh out who your character is going to become. Because you don't have to use all of your details, right? You don't have to make a character that's exactly like you. You might want to, but you certainly don't have to. You can take that artistic license. So for instance, thinking about my own experience, right? I like to think I'm pretty curious. I always want to know more about the things that I'm interested in. Okay. Let's see. More things about me that might kind of help inform a character I might want to write. Oh, here's one. It takes me a long time to get to sleep because my brain is busy. Okay. And so, it can take me a while because I'm thinking about so many things, and it can take a long time for my brain to turn off. And that might be a character trait for my main character, right? Ava asks the question, should we come up with names early on or later at the end? Either one. Okay, if you have an idea, if you have a clear idea for what you want your character to be named, great, go for it. And if you change your mind halfway through, you're allowed to change your mind. It's your story. You can write it however you want. If you can't come up with a name yet, you can pick a name as a placeholder. And then once you come up with your name, go back in and change it later. What can trip up younger and emerging writers often is getting stuck on, I have to have this one detail, otherwise I can't move on. That's what kind of writer's block feels like, right? If I don't have a name for my character, I just can't write anything. And that's not true. Even if you don't have a name for your character, you might have an idea of what kind of character you want to write. And because of that, you can start writing that character. And you might, use a placeholder name like Character X or Character 1 or Protagonist or Protag for short. And then when a name comes to you or you start thinking about your character and what kind of name you might want to use, then you can go back in and fill that in later. Okay, so let's go back to my personal character traits. I'm curious. It takes me a long time to get to sleep. Let's see. I can have a hard time making small talk. So like doing the oh, it sure is smoky outside, those kind of things. Like, to be honest, it's not that interesting to me. I'd rather talk about real stuff, or I don't have to talk at all. I don't mind, actually, that's another one. I don't mind silence. Doesn't bother me. Some people, it can really bother them when there's silence, and so they try and fill the silence with talking or music, right? For me, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't really mind silence. I don't mind waiting and giving people time to think for an answer. I think that's maybe one of my better strengths as a teacher is I don't mind waiting and letting people come to their own answer and giving people time to wait, okay? Patience. Patience. Right? And what's nice about having this note taker, here's the other category. So here's character traits. What if I put that in green? Here's stories and anecdotes. Here the sentence starter is, this one time I blank. Okay, and then also down here we have opposites. Okay, I wonder what it's like to be blank. Because when I said I don't mind silence, what I thought about was, I thought about my dad. And I thought about when my dad and I are in the car. Let's say could be going on a road trip. Like, I've done lots of road trips with my dad. He drove me to college. We've driven down to Los Angeles to go to the Rose Bowl for a football game or something like that. So I've spent a lot of time in the car with my dad. And he and I could, honestly, he and I could sit in the car and drive and not say anything to each other for like an hour. And that's okay. Neither of us have, like, I get that from my dad, is I don't have to, neither of us feel the need to fill that space. We can just kind of drive and be, and it's okay. It's not awkward. It's not anything. It just is. And so maybe because that anecdote came to me of driving in the car in silence with Dad. Maybe that turns into something in my story. Maybe this character has to go on, if we go back to our list here, right? Maybe there's a journey or a quest or something. And there's a moment where my character and, you know, the main character and the secondary characters are traveling somewhere and nobody's talking. And we get to hear from sort of the inner monologue of our main character, of what they're thinking in that silence. Right? That can be a really nice break, especially if the stuff I wrote right before had a lot of action in it. Maybe there's a calm moment after all this action, after an action-packed scene, right? So hopefully you're starting to see a little bit of how, even if I'm not going to use that exact story, it's starting to get my brain moving in terms of ideas for what I might want to write about. Okay? Other stories, you know, we talked about this morning in morning meeting, right? We talked about what is an example of a time where you had to learn a lesson the hard way, right? And you can use that in your story, right? Mine was about finding out the hard way how a light works. So sticking my finger in a lamp and getting shocked, right? Maybe that's something my character learns. Maybe that's something, or maybe that's something, maybe it could be like, you know, I got shocked and all of a sudden I have electricity powers, or there's like an electrical surge and some portal opens to our dimension, another dimension, if we're doing like a parallel world story or something like that, okay? Let's see. So again, these, you don't have to write exactly what are in these in this document. Okay, you don't actually have to write exactly these scenes. You don't have to. I don't have to have a scene of driving in the car in silence with my dad. But the idea is, I'm starting to think about these personal experiences and going, oh, I don't have to write something exactly like that, but maybe I can have a moment of silence in my story, where my character is just thinking in the quiet, in the calm, right? Or maybe my character can learn a lesson the hard way. Or maybe there's something with electricity that's happening, right? It's starting to get your brain kind of bubbling, okay? And this last down here, opposites. I wonder what it's like to be, okay? This can be a great area if you want to write a character that isn't like you at all. Or maybe you want to write a secondary character. Maybe your main character is a little bit more like you, but your secondary character could be the villain or the antagonist, could be a sidekick, could be a mentor, or a teacher, or someone that your character learns from along the way, your Yodas, your Obi-Wan Kenobis. It could be that character is very different from you. So maybe, you know, I wonder what it's like to be the life of the party. Okay? Because I'm not a person that can just make new friends right away. Lots of people are like that. They can just show up and talk to anybody and make new friends and connect with people right away. I'm not like that. If I go to a party where I don't know very many people, I will, or I go to an event where I don't know that many people, I am gonna hang out by the edges and kind of survey the scene and figure it out. So maybe I want to have a character in my story that is the life of the party, so I can kind of live vicariously through them, right? Or maybe I want to show a character who's very extroverted and very social like that as a contrast to my main character who's a little bit more shy. Okay? Part of writing is about showing those differences and showing those contrasts. And you can make a shy character look more shy when you put a really outgoing character next to them. You can make, to use like Hagrid as an example, right? It makes Harry look and feel that much smaller because there's a really big character next to him. Like it can be pretty simple to get that point across if you're using those kind of opposites and contrasts. So I wonder what it's like to be life of the party. I wonder what it's like to fall asleep right away. I wonder what it's like to right? And maybe the opposites don't come to me, so maybe I'll go back up to the character traits, right? Think about I am. I like to think that I'm calm. There's definitely times when I'm not, and it makes those times feel all that much bigger. But I like to think that I'm calm. Yeah. Here's one. I wonder what it's like to be adventurous. I definitely don't consider myself an adventurous person. I like to play it safe. I like my routines. I like to do sort of the same thing. I don't mind. I'm the kind of person that like will watch the same movie 100 times before I watch a new movie that I've never heard anything about. Right? There's something to that, And maybe you're like that too. Maybe you're not like that, right? And this idea that I might use these elements, right, of I like to watch familiar movies over and over again, right? So, maybe that becomes a part of my character, or maybe that becomes an area where my character has to grow and learn something. Maybe, thinking about not just movies, but thinking about familiar versus unfamiliar. Maybe I want to have a character who really is like me, that only likes to do familiar things, and then all of a sudden, because of the plot, they have to really do some stuff that's unfamiliar and new. And so they're overcoming that challenge. And that's a plot point. That's a character arc. Okay? So, again, I do want to reiterate. You don't have to use these things exactly as they are in your story. Okay? This is meant to get your creative brain going and start to think about, here's all the things and all the details that I know about me or are familiar to me. And then think about, do I want to use them as part of my character? Okay? The other stuff, the above the surface stuff, is important too, like the how tall this person is or where they're from or what they look like. But you have to have both in order to really make that character feel real. All right, everybody. Writing group B, we are going to start at 1 o'clock on Zoom. So I hope to see you there. If you've already started working on a story, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. And we're going to share it out at our small group time. If you haven't started working on a story yet, I implore you, it's a fancy word for do it, I implore you to fill out that note taker and really start thinking about what kinds of traits do you have as an individual, as a person, as a fifth grader, and what kind of traits do you not have, or you're the opposite to, or what kinds of stories or details come to mind that maybe could become a jumping off point for your story. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.